one of the first things, the very first metric that people tend to talk about, because it's often so directly correlated with revenue, is page views. Page views equal revenue for us. We should be driving our people to be getting more and more page views. And there's a kind of challenge with this when we start to use page views as a proxy for anything, because one of the things, if my clicker works, there we go, is that 55% of all page views get less than 15 seconds of attention. And we pulled out all the terms, all the top keywords around the most clicked on terms. And then we divided them into most clicked on and most read, and most clicked on and least read. And my God, it restores your faith in humanity. Some of the things we found, so Obamacare, it was Snowden, it was Syria, were in the most reads per click. In the least reads per click, you had top, best, richest, fictional, colleges for some reason. And we found zero correlation between social sharing and engagement on the page. Zero sharing. Turns out people share for a bunch of different reasons, not just because they read every word of the article. One of the things that Newsweek did was they published their top stories of 2015, based purely on kind of Facebook actions, Facebook likes, Facebook shares, and so forth. And when you look at that list, you get this. So the number one most important story of 2015 was on littlethings.com. 44 years ago, he wrote this song, but when he hears her sing it like this, he cries. This was the most important story of 2015, if you look at purely social shares. And there's a kind of running theme to a lot of the stories on this page, and that's that they're kind of clickbait bollocks. The trouble then becomes, though, if you're just using kind of social shares to try and drive your strategy, you can get into these kind of challenges where you end up publishing just this. Now, there's been a few different news organizations that have been trying to look at this in a different way. The New York Times and New York Mag, for example, when they were looking at their kind of end of year and they wanted to try and sum up what they'd done, they decided to try and find a different way. They wanted to look at total time spent with their audience. And this is the kind of stories that you get. You get the Bataclan attacks as you come through. You've got the New York Times story about Amazon, which was a fabulous piece. You have Wired, and I've got permission from The Atlantic to kind of share some of this data with you guys. So this story, just to give you some guys, got 20 million page views. You've got 55 million minutes of engaged time. What that means is it's like getting more than 400,000 people in a room and getting them to watch the last Star Wars movie. That's how engaging this one article was. And even though it was something of a unicorn in terms of its size and power, a lot of the things that came from this are actually indicative of what happens across the network in general. So one of the things that we see on this is that Facebook is utterly dominant when it comes to traffic, especially in those early days. You see kind of Google coming in there a little bit later, but not really driving as much. And we'll kind of get to Google in a bit. And then you have that little red line down there, that almost kind of flat line. And that's Twitter. And here is something that we see over and over again, which is that Facebook utterly dominates Twitter by an order of magnitude in terms of social traffic. And the interesting thing is that all the people in this room have probably spent far more time tweeting things from this conference than they have spent time on Facebook. Our audience is on Facebook. We are on Twitter. That's something of a disconnect that we have to deal with. Speaking in kind of English, for every one article that Facebook drives traffic to, Google drives to about 16 articles. So what that means is during the kind of lulls, and this was kind of the time before the Bataclan attacks, which was that second big spike that you saw in that earlier slide, Google was kind of chugging along, delivering a good amount of traffic day by day. And Google gets the kind of an immediate spike as people start searching for this stuff, but then suddenly, boom, it's Facebook again, and just utterly dominant. Desktop and mobile are not zero-sum. This is a constant thing that I hear when I go and speak to media companies. They're like, well, desktop is clearly dying. That doesn't seem to be the case. So yes, it's absolutely true that mobile is already probably greater than 50%, moving towards 60, 70% of traffic. That's not because it's killing desktop. It's because it's outgrowing it. With Facebook, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to come from Facebook on mobile than or from social in general, and social is largely Facebook, as we've seen, on mobile than you are on desktop. Like this kind of behavior even warps even further when you look at recirculation as well, because we also don't recirculate. Recirculation is when I've gone to a story, and then I choose to go on to another story. So recirculation is a huge challenge, and this is particularly a challenge because this, with time spent on a page, are the 2 key leading indicators of propensity to return. But there are some good signs as well for publishers on this. We don't recirculate, we don't go to home pages, but we do read. Averaging engaged time and scroll depth was, it was about averaging, It's about 3 minutes 40 for desktop. It's about 3 minutes for mobile. So pretty comparable and close. It is not true to say that the web is going towards worse and worse content. At least that's not what the data says when you look at it right. On a note of caution, as media companies, we have to be aware of the incredible dominance of Facebook, particularly on mobile. Media companies do 5 things. They create content, they host content, they curate content, they distribute content, and they monetize content. On mobile, Facebook now dominates curate and distribute. With instant articles, they're now taking on hosting and monetization, which leaves create. Now, this may mean that media companies in the future can focus purely on what they're truly best at, the creation of incredible content. It's going to open up wide new vistas. Or it could mean their utter disintermediation. I have no idea.